Planning a dispensary in Norfolk? If you think finding a vacant lot with a for lease sign is enough, well, you're already off track. In Norfolk, the city isn't hostile, but they've built a framework that filters out almost any site that doesn't meet the 3-acre commercial requirement and survive a conditional use permit, or CUP, hearing. And here's the kicker, the school buffer rule might be 300 feet, or it could be 1,000 feet. That ambiguity alone can make or break your application. Stick with me, because we're going to unpack exactly what this means and how one small oversight can cost you years of preparation. Let's talk counterintuitive legal fact and misconceptions. Most people think, oh, if the state issues the cannabis license, the city won't matter. Well, not in Norfolk. The city is the gatekeeper. Without zoning approval and a CUP, the state won't even look seriously at your application. So it's not just about state law, it's about aligning with Norfolk's regulatory vision. So, you might be thinking, I just need a storefront in the right commercial zone, and I'm good. That's simpler than reality. Norfolk isn't just checking boxes, they're evaluating district-wide compliance, community impact, traffic, security, and yes, even neighbor sentiment. Small sites, fragmented corridors, they fail the 3-acre test before you even apply. Welcome to the Norfolk, Virginia Cannabis Hub. I'm an expert in Virginia cannabis law, local governance, and compliance. Today we're talking strictly legal frameworks, no lifestyle advice, no promotion, just the real rules you have to follow to open a dispensary in Norfolk. We'll cover the city's zoning and CUP requirements, the sequential licensing ladder, and the hidden pitfalls that often trip up applicants. And, we'll answer the open question I mentioned at the start about the school buffer conflict. By the end, you'll understand how to strategically approach Norfolk's cannabis market in 2026, while staying fully compliant. Here's the context. Virginia cannabis law evolved slowly, starting with limited medical programs, then expanding adult use legalization. Localities like Norfolk have taken a proactive stance. They've formed a cannabis advisory task force and even removed pre-employment drug testing for city employees in 2021 to align with state law. Confusion persists because state law gives localities broad zoning discretion. Add in overlapping maps, draft council proposals, and inconsistent public resources, you get a perfect storm where a simple commercial property search isn't enough. Here's the legal explanation. The primary statutes in play are the Virginia Cannabis Control Authority regulations, the city's zoning code, and conditional use permit requirements. School buffer, Norfolk proposes 300 feet from K-12 schools or 1,000 feet from schools and daycares. The discrepancy is critical, your planning application must verify this with the planning department, 311. 3-acre requirement. Your property must sit in a contiguous commercial or industrial district of at least 3 acres that permits a dispensary. This is not negotiable. I've seen many dispensaries in shopping malls, said a friend, so I had to explain. So, Norfolk requires that dispensaries be located within a commercial or industrial district that totals at least 3 contiguous acres. This doesn't necessarily mean the single lot you see has to be 3 acres, it can be a smaller lot, as long as the entire district meets the 3-acre threshold. CUP requirement, every site needs a CUP. Conditional use permit. This triggers a public hearing, neighbor input, and city council approval. Chemistry and labeling matter for state licensing, but Norfolk's initial hurdle is physical and political compliance. You cannot skip steps. Hey, before we dive into this next part, I want to take a quick moment to invite you to join the Norfolk City Cannabis Community. If you're following Virginia cannabis law, policy updates, or local regulations, this is the place to stay informed and make sure you're ahead of the curve. We're also launching a newsletter that will deliver the latest legal updates, policy changes, and important insights straight to your inbox. It's completely free, and it's designed to help you stay up to date without having to dig through dozens of sources. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and sign up for the newsletter. You won't miss a single update, and you'll be part of a community that's serious about staying informed. Alright, let's get back to where we left off. Let's talk about how enforcement works. Enforcement in Norfolk is carried out by the Planning Department and Code Enforcement for zoning, while public complaints can escalate to the City Council. Lab reports for THC content, product testing, or labeling are not determinative for your initial application, they only matter once the state license is issued. Who this affects? Consumers. Access will depend on which districts pass the 3-acre and cup filters. Expect limited initial storefronts. Retailers and applicants, you need precise geospatial planning, legal review, and community engagement strategy before applying. Local government. Norfolk is balancing safety, compliance, and controlled market growth. Medical cannabis. Patients will rely on city-approved dispensaries. Delays or denials affect access. Why this matters? Public safety, regulatory clarity, financial risk, and long-term policy outcomes hinge on this process. One misstep in zoning or cup compliance can result in multi-year delays or outright rejection. Now, let's pause here. Many applicants think they understand the 3-acre requirement. But the real challenge is mapping an entire district that passes both the acre test and the ambiguous school buffer. This is where community engagement, pre-application verification, and legal counsel are not optional, they're survival tools. Here's a scenario. Remember the school buffer ambiguity I mentioned? Let's say your lot is 500 feet from a daycare. One interpretation, safe under the 300-foot rule. Another, fails the proposed 1,000-foot rule. Scenario A, you consult planning, confirm 1,000-foot rule, map compliant districts, and submit a cup application with community input. Result, smooth local approval, state license review proceeds. Scenario B, you assume 300-foot buffer, submit application, neighbors raise concerns. Cup denied. Now your state application is stalled for at least a year. Small distinctions, like interpreting which buffer applies, change everything legally and financially. This resolves the open loop and answers the silent legal question. Assumptions about buffer distances can cost the license before the first signature is inked. What to watch next? Check out our next video, Norfolk Dispensary Cup Hearings, Winning Community Support Legally. This will cover how to navigate council hearings without violating any state or city rules. Also, you can check out some of our recent videos on Virginia Beach Cannabis Policy and Legalization Timeline, the Virginia Cannabis Retail Market Update for Norfolk 2026, and another more popular video on how cannabis law in Virginia just changed. Question. Given Norfolk's proactive regulatory approach, what strategies would you use to identify viable districts while staying fully compliant? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments. So, to recap. Norfolk isn't just issuing licenses. They're filtering, engaging, and regulating at the district level. Always verify zoning, confirm school buffers, plan for the cup, and map 3-acre commercial districts before submitting anything. Like, comment, and subscribe for more Virginia-specific cannabis law updates. Join the Norfolk City Cannabis Community to crowdsource zoning intel, track cup hearings, and connect with local experts. Stay compliant, stay informed, and stay ahead.